Our South African heroes, the leaders. Chapter 1. Perils Past. The retreat from Dundee. The war is over at last, and peace reigns in South Africa. Britain and Boer have agreed to forget their differences and settle down together as loyal subjects of King Edward, and we hope that they will do so, and that the men who have learnt to respect one another as brave and gallant foemen will now shake hands and become firm friends. Who are the heroes who have borne the brunt of this bitter struggle, the men who have saved the empire in South Africa? Well, there are a good many of them, some 250,000 odd, and we can only name a few who have come conspicuously to the front in some of the chief incidents of the war. Our first picture of General Ewell's retreat from Dundee, under all the depressing circumstances of rain and mud and general discomfort, is typical of the early stages of the war. So far as the British were concerned, we thought there was to be a kind of holiday march to Pretoria, and were quite unprepared to meet the Boer commandos, which came pouring into Natal by Lang's Neck and through the passes of the Drakensberg, overrunning the country down to Tugela, and soon investing in the town of Ladysmith, the Aldershot of Natal. General Sir G. White, Relief of Ladysmith. The siege of Ladysmith is one of the great historic events of the war, and the name of Sir General G. White, its gallant defender, holds a conspicuous place on our roll of heroes. First invested on November the 2nd, 1899, the town held out until February the 28th of the following year, a period of 118 days. And General White's words when it was at length relieved, "Thank God we have kept the flag flying," found a hearty response in every British breast. Prior to the war, General White was Commander-in-Chief in India. He had been through the Indian Mutiny and seen service in Afghanistan, Egypt and Burma. He is now Governor of Gibraltar. Baden-Powell, Mafeking. We naturally come next to that other historic siege, Mafeking, the plucky little town on the Bechuanaland border which held out against the Boers for other 7 months, 220 days to be exact. The hero of the siege was the gallant Colonel, not General, Baden-Powell. Who will ever forget the anxiety of those weeks when we waited to hear of the arrival of the relief force, or the wave of frantic enthusiasm that surged over the land when the news at length arrived? "3 cheers for BP," was the cry, and we gave him 3 times 3 and then shouted till we were hoarse. But he deserved it all, for the defence of the Mafeking stands out as one of the pluckiest exploits in all history. Said one of its defenders, "Had any man in whom the town placed less confidence been in command, disaster might have befallen Mafeking. And if we are able to replace the name of Mafeking on the roll of the Empire's outposts, which have fought for the honour and the glory of Britain, it will be chiefly because Baden-Powell has commanded us." Baden-Powell's dash at the enemy. No sooner had Colonel Mahon's relief force entered the town on May the 17th than both relievers were unrelieved sallied out of the fiercely attacked and laager of the disheartened Boers, said Baden-Powell in his terse dispatch. "We shelled them out and nearly captured Snyman. We took 1 gun, a flag, and a large quantity of ammunition, and the Boers at last fled, leaving many dead on the field." As Scout and Chief of Scouts, General Baden-Powell has seen service in many campaigns in India and Africa. He now holds the command of South African Police and will doubtless find plenty of work to do in the pacification of the country. General Buller. At the beginning of the war, Sir General Redvers Buller was sent out as Commander-in-Chief, but after the severe repulse which he experienced at Colenso, he was superseded by Lord Roberts, who conducted the victorious advance on Pretoria. Buller, meantime, found his work cut out for him in Natal, where he finally relieved Ladysmith, after going through some of the hardest fighting of the war at Spion Kop and on the Tugela. Some people have blamed him for his conduct of the war, but whatever his faults, we must remember that he has a good record. He served in the China expedition of 1860 and Red River Expedition, the Ashanti, Kaffir and Zulu Wars, in the last of which he won the VC for conspicuous gallantry. The slide shows General Buller leaving Portsmouth on board the Donata Castle. Colonel Thornycroft. It was at the terrible fight of the Spion Cop that Colonel Thornycroft came to the front. Buller was endeavouring to advance to the relief of Ladysmith, and this precipitous hill was believed to be the key of the position. It was stormed by the infantry under General Woodgate, but a terrible disappointment awaited them. Instead of dominating the Boer positions as they had expected, they found themselves the target for Boer artillery all round. It was literally a death trap. General Woodgate fell severely wounded, and the commander devolved upon Colonel Thornycroft. After the ridge had been held all day under the most terrible fire, a Boer came forward with a white flag and demanded their surrender. Colonel Thornycroft, in a great rage, peremptorily ordered his return, saying, "Go away, I'm in command, there is no surrender here." Piper Mackay. Lord Methuen was another of the unfortunate leaders during the early days of the war. He won dearly bought victories at Belmont, Graspan and Modder River, but came to terrible grief at Magersfontein, where the Highland Brigade, the Black Watch, Gordons and Seaforths were almost annihilated. When the noise of battle became too loud for the officers' voices to be heard, a brave Piper Mackay of the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders stepped out amid a perfect storm of bullets and made the copses ring with the stirring strains of "The Campbells are coming," to get the men together again. It was a terrible day for the Highlanders. They left no less than 650 men on the field, as well as their brave General Wauchop. Lieutenant Roberts, VC. Lieutenant Roberts, the only son and heir of Lord Roberts, was another of the heroes whose gallant deeds brighten the records of those early disasters. It was at Colenso, in the British centre, 2 batteries of guns actually got within 300 yards of the enemy in an attempt to place them at an effective distance. A storm of bullet once slew or disabled nearly all the horses and knocked over the gunners, who, however, fought like heroes to the last man. During the day, several attempts were made to regain the guns, but in the first attempt, though 2 were recovered, Lieutenant Roberts was mortally wounded. The Victoria Cross was awarded to him and to several other officers for their bravery, but the 10 guns had at last to be abandoned.